Hello everyone, my name is Violetine. Um, Most of you might know this by now, but I actually forgot to introduce myself in the last video, so I need to make a habit of this. These are new things. Obviously, this is only my fourth video now, and I am still getting used to the process of recording and understanding myself as somebody that records videos. But today I want to talk about something that I realize most people have a misconception on, because I was taught the incorrect way of thinking about this. And what I mean is the ego. I want to talk about the ego today. So we are never really taught what the ego is. Growing up, you hear people say things like, "Oh, that's just your ego," or "You have such a big ego," or they may not even actually use the word ego. They'll say, "Oh, you've got such a big head," or things like that. And those are most of the time those are insults, but the people who are using those terms, they also most of the time don't know what egos are. And I say egos because there isn't just one ego. There are many. And these egos are the things that we use to defend ourselves against people. It's the parts inside of ourselves that put up barriers between us and our inner child. This is the thing I was talking about in my last video. It's your inner child holding on to hope, and then your egos are the things that get between you and your inner child. And that's what I'm talking about today, the egos. Now, egos aren't, as people understand it, and as I understood it up until a few years ago, the ego isn't the self. The ego isn't who you are as a person. Yes, egos are personality traits that you take on as you develop through your childhood, but you are not your ego. You are the thing that was born into this world, the person that was born into this world before anything affected you. So the moment of birth, you are your true self. And everything after that, you begin subconsciously and defensively putting up barriers, and these barriers are your egos, and people refer to them as negative. Like I said, you've got such a big ego. Everybody always says things like that about people that they disagree, things about people that might just be proud of themselves, or things like that. But they make these insults and these statements from a place of misunderstanding. And that's what I want to clarify. I want to clarify that we are not the things that we use to defend ourselves against other people. Like, I have, or I've, I've been working on dissolving this specific ego around masculinity, around male figures in my life, because predominantly throughout my life I have been picked on and attacked by and bullied by mostly male figures, whether they were other students in my class or other classes or teachers, very specifically teachers. Um, and because of that, my person has put up the defense of this ego. This ego has manifested to protect me from these male figures so that I am not so emotionally affected by them. But that then hides a part of me, and that's a part of me that I've only recently gotten back. And that part of me is my own masculinity. This ego protects me against outside masculinity, but also it deprives me of my own masculinity, and I've recently begun taking that back. My strength, my not letting people walk over me, that my if you will divine masculine energy that keeps me strong and keeps me from letting people take over my life and letting people make decisions for me. That is how I now use my masculinity. Um, and most of us have a completely misunderstood conception of what our egos are and how we're supposed to work through them, because I now understand that myself, I am this person and I have these values and these goals and these dreams and things like that, but to get to them I had to dissolve many of these egos so that I could see my inner child again. And that's something that I didn't really talk about too much about in the last video. Um, Dissolving the egos so that we may see our inner child. We have to spend time thinking about the defenses that we put up against external factors, whether that is a fear of climate change or global warming or the destruction of modern society, or smaller things like whether I'm going to be able to do what I want to today, or whether somebody's going to get in the way of me wanting to express myself in some kind of way. Those egos must be broken down so that we find the strength within ourselves to represent ourselves truly in the world. And a lot of people talk about the egos being bad, and in a sense, yes, they can be. They can be very bad. They can be very consequential, but we also have to forgive them, because our egos, we place them there to protect us, and in essence that is not bad. Our egos are not bad at their core. It's just that we allow them to rule our lives for so long, for such extended periods of time, that we then begin to lose our sense of self. We then begin to believe that these defenses that we put up, these anxieties that we have, are who we are. And we don't realize this because we're never taught what egos are. We are never taught that our egos aren't us. That if you spend the time, you go through the work, you gain appreciation for yourself, for who you truly are, how you want to express yourself. That is who you are. And you can only do that by dissolving your egos. And that is a difficult process to go through, because you have to look at all of the things that scare you. You have to look at the things that your egos protect you from, which is a terrifying journey. But like I say in every video, there's nothing more worth than finding yourself. There's nothing more worth than finding who you are inside yourself. There's nothing like it. There is nothing like it. And I say this in not from a completely and utterly enlightened state, but from a point of progress. Every day, I try to understand an ego and try to see if I can dissolve it. And it's not about just seeing the ego and then deciding against it. No, it's about, in the moment where our egos rear their heads, where these monsters come out, and it's like a hydra, and when you think you've gotten rid of one, then you realize that there are like 5 other ones that were hiding behind that one. And this is a journey. This is a lifelong journey of dissolving ego so that we can understand ourselves. But then once you come into this understanding, you begin making decisions for yourself. And this is the exciting part. This is the true exciting part, where you get to wear whatever you want to wear. You get to do things that you want to do and express yourself in the ways that you want to express yourself. Put your beauty out into the world, which is what I'm doing now. And I wouldn't have been able to if I hadn't spent so much time trying to work through my egos. And now I see so much beauty. There's so much beauty in this world, and I just want to share it. I just want to share it because, like, we go through this, we go through our lives constantly just battling our egos without even knowing it. We're constantly fighting our anxieties, our fears, our angers, our disillusionments, and we think that's who we are. We think that these anxieties that we have will be there with us for the rest of our lives, because we are never taught that they are actually parts of ourselves that we implemented. And if we implemented them, then we can remove them, because they no longer serve us. But you cannot do this from the perspective of, damn it, these things have been ruling my life and I need to get rid of them. That's not how it works. You have to sit with them. You have to understand them. You have to go through the memories that created them and truly and honestly see them without judgment. You have to open yourself to the understanding that these things are part of you, yes, but they don't always have to be. And that doesn't make them bad. We mustn't attack our egos. That is how they were created. We were attacked somehow by some form of external source, and our egos created themselves. We created our egos subconsciously so that we don't have to constantly fight against these external forces on our own. We create our egos as friends to keep us from falling apart in the world. But just like, and most of us have probably felt this before, just like friends in real life, you cannot keep all of your friends. People change. We change as people. And because of that, we separate ourselves from some of the people in our lives, because we cannot forever have the people around us that no longer benefit us as a person, that no longer agree with us in the way that our lives are. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. Separating ourselves from the people that don't serve us is just a normal thing in our everyday lives, and that's the same way with our egos. Separating ourselves from the parts of us that no longer constantly need to be afraid, that no longer constantly have to be tense and defending us and looking for the next avenue of attack, because we aren't being attacked constantly. We aren't constantly being pushed on to mentalities that we don't agree with. But when they do happen, we allow these egos to keep replaying it in our heads. Have you ever sat in a conversation and either you said something that you're embarrassed by, or somebody said something to you that hurt you, and then you sit and think about it for hours? You sit and think, oh, but what if I said this? But what if I said that? But what if they said this? What if this happened? What if I didn't go? What if I never go anywhere? What if I never do anything ever again? What if I just sit in my house and keep myself safe and play my video games? I love video games. Play my video games so that nobody ever hurts me again. That is an ego. That is an ego that I myself have fought past. And now I'm here. Now I'm here spreading the word. Now I'm here showing the world its beauty, because, like I said, the beauty is right in front of us, but we put things in front of us so that we can't see our beauty, so that we can't see the beauty in the world, so that we defend ourselves constantly, but against attacks that aren't constantly happening. Those egos repeat those attacks in our heads, and then we are constantly cautious of them from the outside world. But when you, without judgment, sit and you understand these egos, and you love them, because that is where they came from. They came from a sense of self-love. You love yourself and who you are, and you want to protect that with everything that you have, so subconsciously we put up these defenses, we create these egos. You must love them. You must love them so that you can let them go. Because if you're constantly afraid of them, then you create another ego against your egos, and that is a vicious cycle. That is a vicious cycle of creating defenses inside yourself against yourself. And that's something that most people do. I did this for a very long time. For a very long time, whenever I would get into a room with somebody who just has a very charismatic masculine energy, then I would retreat within myself, because those are the people that hurt me. But just because those people hurt me many years ago when I was younger doesn't mean that this charismatic man or woman with masculine energy, or whoever you might be, is going to hurt me, because that's not the point. The defense isn't them being bad. The defense is inside of me having interacted with people of that energy being bad to me. And you have to care for that. You have to care for the parts of yourself that were hurt. That is the most important thing. You have to care for the part of yourself that was hurt, the part of yourself that made the ego. You have to look at it and you have to say, I'm so sorry that you were hurt and that I didn't do anything to work against this. And this is a part of myself that I am still working against, and it makes me really emotional because it's difficult. It is a difficult thing, and it takes so much time, and most of us are alone. Most of us are alone in this because we don't know. Most people aren't taught that we can, as community, work on ourselves and each other because of these egos. We are afraid of people because people hurt us. But once you start letting go of the egos that were hurt, one at a time, then you start opening yourself to people again. You start seeing community, you start seeing people not as monsters, as the monsters that hurt you when you were younger. You start seeing people for their beauty, and you start seeing yourself for your beauty. And that's all that I want. That's all that I want for everybody. That's all that I want for all of the people that I love, all of you out there. I love all of you. And I just want all of you to love yourselves, to love each other. And that's this journey that we're on. This journey that we are taking is a journey of love. And whether that makes you feel anxious, or if you feel like that sentence was cringy or anything like that, that is an ego. That is an ego that was imposed onto you by somebody who was against you being sensitive, or when you showed somebody love, they attacked you for it, and now you won't show anyone love again. That is an ego. That is an ego that you put between you and your inner child, and your inner child has nothing but love for the world. Your inner child loves this place. And that's what we want. We want to love this place. We want to love our existence. And the only way to do that is to allow ourselves to let our defenses go, to allow ourselves to become strong enough to defend ourselves. That's the key. Once you go through these egos, you become strong enough to defend yourself against these things, because by taking the power away from the ego, if this is the ego and there's something in here and that's its power, by taking it from it, you then integrate that into yourself, meaning you become that strength. You become the strength that then defends you from something that might happen in the future, instead of constantly defending yourself against something that isn't happening all the time. That's the difficult part. Realizing that you take your strength back. You have to take it. No one's going to give it to you. The only thing people give you from the outside are more egos. But if you let go of the egos, then you give yourself strength. You give yourself validation. You give yourself purpose. You start seeing your purpose in the world outside, because you no longer have these things keeping you from seeing beauty. And beauty brings purpose. Because, well, at least in my personal journey, seeing the beauty in the world has brought me the purpose of protecting it, of allowing more people to see it, allowing myself to see more beauty. I try to go out every day now and celebrate some form of beauty, whether that's seeing a new bird or seeing a pigeon just do something on the side of the street. That is a living, beautiful creature, and there are tons of them everywhere, and they do their things and they fly. Flight. Birds fly everywhere. They transcend the ground, something that everybody's had the dream of flight. And that is such a beautiful thing. Seeing whether it's a hawk hovering through the sky, or a seagull dropping an oyster from the sky so that it breaks. These are beautiful things. These are beautiful things, but we don't allow ourselves to see them because of our egos. We don't allow ourselves to perceive the world from a perspective of beauty, because the world taught us that seeing beauty is weakness. And now we have an ego against that weakness, meaning we have an ego protecting us against beauty instead of protecting us against the people who don't see beauty. I just want us all to see our beauty. I just want us all to be happy in this world. And that only happens once you allow yourself the time, the effort, the care, the love. You allow yourself to love yourself enough so that you can let go of this ego, so that you can let go of the things that hold you back. And that's not you. You aren't holding yourself back. You're just afraid. And that fear is what holds you back. That fear that was taught to you. What did I say? Fear is inaccurate evidence appearing real. It doesn't come from inside. What comes from the inside is truth. What comes from you is truth. And I really just hope everybody can see their truth one day. I think that's going to be me for now. I love you guys. I have to get to work. And I really hope that maybe this sauce lets somebody see an ego. Maybe somebody just realized that they can do it. They can do it because you can. You can do it. All of you beautiful people out there, you can do it. You are strong enough and you can take your strength back. I love you all. And I'll see you in the next one.